Tell Me a Story is about enhancing, impacting, and transforming lifestyles. Join me as my distinguished guest share their profound and inspiring moments of transformation. Experiences that have not only reshaped their mindsets and aspirations, but have also positioned them as guiding voices for others seeking similar introspection. Hello, hello. It's Wednesday and it is Wisdom Wednesday, which is Tell Me a Story Day. And today in Tell Me a Story, we have the fabulous Mary Jane Charles, and she is going to introduce herself and she is going to share with us an aha moment, a, the moment where you just change directions. Something that happened, like I said earlier, that made you think I needed this help or I needed your pain point. And she has dealt with her pain point and she will be sharing this with us right now. Welcome, Mary Jane.
Thank you, Karina, for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm so excited. So I'm going to give you the floor and go ahead. Tell me a story.
Okay. Well, once upon a time, I lived outside of Portland, Oregon, and my husband was very ill. He would not go to a doctor. He consulted Dr. Google. So if anyone out there consults Dr. Google, it's a reference, but that's not a doctor. So that's one thought. But this particular day, I knew he was extremely weak. And for weeks before, I would say, you really need to figure out or fill out a medical directive. No, I don't need one. I don't need one. Well, so this morning he woke up. He wanted to have a business meeting with his partner. I said, that's all well and fine. You're not driving. I am, because he was just too exhausted. And I tried my plug for the medical directive one more time. While I stood in front of him, it occurred to me I had the medical directive in one hand and I had my phone in the other because I knew we would be leaving shortly. I said, may I video you while I read it and you can shake your head or nod? And he said, yes. I almost fell over. It took me 20 minutes because I had to put the questions in a yes and no manner, but I had it. So that was that. We get in the car and we get to our destination. Only 25 minutes away, I leaned over. I thought perhaps he was able to take a cat nap. I leaned over to say, we're here, and he had died. He died just like that in the car seat next to me. So life can change in a car ride, let alone on a dime. The man in the next car space said, you're having troubles, I'll call 911. I did not know him, and I never saw him again. Within an hour, I found myself in the waiting room with people arriving. My husband was in wherever they take people in the ER. And the doctor came in and said, do you have his medical directive? I said, no, I don't, but I have this. And he looked at me and I showed him my 18-minute videotape. He only needed to see the first 5 minutes. He said, this is amazing. I can't believe this, because he could actually see his patient only a few hours earlier. He then took my phone, I'm sure, to get the blessing of the powers that be, because it was so extraordinary. And he came back and told me he had his marching orders. And that was that. He was able to understand, see, and verify the patient's wishes. So if you do nothing else today, please fill out a medical directive. They're free. They're online for every state. They're not intended to be a secret. You never know when you might need this. This is something that the EMTs look for upon arrival, any first responder. So you want to have it available, whether it's in your kitchen drawer, your bedroom drawer, the table next to the bed, put it on the refrigerator, places where people can grab them, your glove compartment. or carry a miniature version in your wallet or your purse. This is extremely important. So we continued. He died, and we went home. I think the car drove itself. My son was 28 at the time, and we drove home in silence because all of a sudden, all the thoughts of what to do next are percolating. I don't have a lot of time here, but I want to say all of a sudden, let the games begin. We did not have a will. He did not have an attorney. There was no doctor to call. I knew some of the people he would like to have notified. I know who I wanted notified. Did I have his phone? Did I have his passwords? Where is his credit card? Where is his debit card? What are those combinations? These are endless. And I was overwhelmed, to say the least. I told my son, we'll get to it. We need to just sit and have a quiet dinner if we can and begin to think, because I didn't know what to think of next. The next day, I was in an attorney's office, courtesy of an elder stepson. Less than 24 hours. You don't want to do that. I promise you. The man couldn't get my name straight. It's not too difficult. It's Mary Jane. I heard Mary Lou, Betty Ann. And finally, I just stood up because he didn't speak to me in the entire 5 minutes we were there. There were other people in the room. I said, this meeting is over. Thank you for your time. They were all flabbergasted. I said, I will get back to you. And I told my stepson on the way home, I will find my own attorney, and it will be after the funeral, which is next week. Take hold of the situation. Don't sit there and wait for someone else to do it. We were home again, about 10 minutes. I received a phone call from the husband of a good friend. Nice guy. We shared hamburgers and beers together. He was in a very serious mood, and his whole point was, Mary Jane, you've got this. And I said, thank you, Mark. He said, no. And he had a whole other tone of voice I never heard from him before. Do what you think is right. No one will question you. It will work out. I'm telling you, I still get wobbly. It was the kindest thing anyone could have done for me. I was okay. I was going to be okay. And that's when you sit back, take a deep breath, have a glass of wine, surround yourself with your best of best friends. They will take care of the next layer. You do not need to be hostess. You do not need to be the excellent person on the block that particular day. You do not need to be the career person who is handling all of the above and being gracious. Forget that. Be yourself. Those who know you will always know you and love you. Call in your troops. I called my old parish. I called the lady who used to sing in the choir all the time. I said, Roseanne, this is what's occurred. She took the ball and ran with it. The next question I got was, do you want ham or turkey? She enabled all the little church ladies to pick the songs, get the flowers, run the reception, speak with the priest. I mean, it's a huge portion of your yellow pad if you sit down and try to do this by yourself. Call in that kind of person and get that layer off your plate. So it went on like this. I looked at that table. My dining room table looked like a war room. I realized all the different piles were chapters. And that's when I started my book. And it was not intended to be sad. It was a call to action, predominantly for women, because we kind of find ourselves in these places that no man ever treads, no pun intended. But it was happening. So I put that in the back of my head. The book started the week after he died, and I had a first edition, or first draft rather, done by Memorial Day weekend. You just pick up one day at a time. Each day presents itself. I went attorney shopping in week 2. You don't want to do that. Make friends with an attorney, preferably a probate attorney, because you have no holding in the world if there's no executor. You need another document to appoint you as the personal representative for the estate of. Skip all this and do it ahead of time. Write down your detailed instructions. That's why my book is called Last Wishes. No, my book is Surviving the Business of Dying, Why Final Papers Matter. At the same time, I have Last Wishes and Support, which was an evolution of the books. I now have classes to help people fill in the blanks. It's a yellow workbook. Why? Because you can find it. It's 8.5 by 11, and it is yellow, so you can find it. It's simple answering a question with a blank page on the opposite side, so you can answer your questions. Anyone over 18 should have one of these, just like a medical directive. In retrospect, I don't know where the idea for the medical directive to be dictated. That was a God wink, plain and simple. Why my friend decided I needed that phone call? Again, a God wink. There are at least 6 other instances that in retrospect, who was that guy? How did that come to be? And I have stories that are probably not appropriate from here, but I have a pretty good sense of humor, and I have got a boatload of them. All I can tell you is believe in yourself. I was upset, readily, hugely. I was nervous. I didn't get along with a lot of people at the gate. Don't think about all that stuff. And that's all it is stuff. It's in here. Get rid of it. Sit and center. Whether you meditate, say the rosary, pray to Allah, make it work for you. And keep those close. Neighbors are wonderful helpers. There was a little lady who every other day she had a new tray for Sean and I. And it was really good. Keep a list of all the helpers. Mr. Rogers used to say, look for the helpers. The helpers are the ones who keep you fed, make sure the dog is walked. Don't ask you where you've been or who was that guy coming to visit you. And they're very insulating. They will intercede. They will just stand up. I had another neighbor. I'm blessed with good neighbors, and they all, like Mary Jane, we took care of this. And some of them will arrive and mow the lawn. Oddest of things to keep you focused on other things, or things you don't really have to think about or answer. There are only 24 hours in the day, and you must sleep. If you can't sleep, just stay there. Stay in bed. Don't get up and start doing things. And don't start drinking. That's not helpful. Keep your inner group. Even your faraway friends will be in touch with you. You'll get notes from people. And just the God wink that you come away on the outside. There's a Japanese quote, you will come out of the storm, but you will not be the same person after it's over. And you won't realize when it's over or if it is over. You just have to stay strong. Know the sun will come up again. And you will be okay, as those around you. They're watching. They're watching how would I handle this? What would I do here? What would I do there? I wrote a book. It was cathartic for me, get all the gobbledygooks out of my brain. And I entered it in a contest on a lark, and it won. I thought, Mazel tov, this is fun. And then friends said, good book, Mary Jane. I still don't know what to do. So I created a workbook. And that's what keeps all of us going. I was able to boil down that whole abyss. It took 18 months to close a little estate. I had to prove who I was and why everywhere I went. Keep your wits. When someone says they're a professional, there was a banker, an estate banker. Mary Jane, why don't we invest your money now? I said, what money? Well, your portion of the estate. I was appalled. I knew this man, and I was shocked. I said, I don't have any money. The money is the estate money. I'm not touching a thing until a judge says that it can be dispersed. I don't know my share, as you call it. Basically, he wanted my business going forward. Well, to say the least, that didn't happen. And when the funds were dispersed, I made it checks to everybody who was standing in line, because they will be. And my portion was withdrawn. He personally called me, this big shot banker. Well, is there a problem? I wondered if. I said, actually, yes. And I told him. He stepped in it. I said, I don't care what you do or how long you've done it, but that, you were out. He was livid. I thanked him, and that was the end of that bank and him. So keep your wits. If it doesn't sound or feel right, don't do it. Don't do it. Let everybody wait, no matter how long they have to wait. That's tough. That's in your hands. So stay in charge. Keep in touch. Keep your feet on the floor. Call best buddies and have a good cry or a good laugh or a good swear session. Anything that keeps you on the straight and narrow. I have another story. I have to look at my note. The church ladies, but the attorneys. I hired 3, and 2 of them were women. And interestingly, you want to do this ahead of time, simply because when you don't need them. All 3 people knew I needed them, and it sounded good to have another client, of course. And bottom line, 2 could not seal the deal with business partner. And I learned lots of things about him. And I had the blessing of my father being an attorney, so I knew when there was a schnook in the room. And I had to go shopping. Each time I didn't like someone or they couldn't pull it together, I had to go find another one. Do that now. Just meet them. Build your troops, your treasure chest, so you don't have to hunt for anything in the moment. It's almost inhumane. You can just put check marks next to them in your workbook and know everything is safe and sound. In the moment, when life explodes and throws 5 curveballs in succession, you've got your yellow workbook, and your first lieutenant will know of that. That term is explained and well used in the workbook. I thank you for your time, and I hope this has been of value to anyone out there. All the gobbledygook I went through, you don't have to. Just write down your personal, detailed instructions. Thank you.
My goodness, Mary Jane. Wow, what a story. It's sad. It starts out sad, but it's amazing how you took that, turned it around, and created something to help others not go through that same experience. And you're right, we don't think about any of that until it's too late. And then we're stuck with this uncertainty. And like you said, especially stuff like probate and the amount of extra money you'd be, I'm going to say, wasting that had you taken care of your papers, whether it's your will, estates. Even every now and then, even me, I'm like, yo, Karina, you got to get your stuff together because, it's just amazing, right?
Well, it's mind blowing when I, look at the book. I'm revising it, and there's still more to put in. And as people use the book, I tried to cover lots of things for lots of people, but we have so many traditions, and we have so many backgrounds. But at the very least, it'll be the thought prompter. And there are no wrong answers. It's not a test. It's a conglomeration of your everyday life and what you do so that somebody can, perhaps, God forbid, walk in your footsteps. And there need not be a horrific circumstance. We hear people falling in the bathroom, God forbid, or in the driveway. If you cannot speak for yourself and they need to know your passwords or what branch you bank, where you bank, and with whom to speak, we still need a human being in front of us. Even with the best laid plans of wise men, you still need a contact. That it's for everybody at any time.
You know, I personally just went through this about a year and a half ago. I went home to Aruba for Christmas, and my dad got extremely sick. And we actually thought he was going, we were going to lose him. He was, rushed to the hospital twice, and they literally told us, his last days, and you go through the ritual, all the usual stuff. And at that moment, we were like, what about his bank account? What about the house, that is
Yes,
a family house. Like, where does it go? Who gets it? Or how do we take care of it? What happens moving forward? And my mom is still alive. So it's like, and she's not in a place to take care of it either. So we're all of a sudden just going, call the lawyer now. And we have to get a lawyer before he loses any sense of reality, because then he's not,
absolutely.
which is another thing. You can't wait till last minute.
No,
So between the two of them, and they're both 90 years old, they were doing pretty good, but they're still 90 years old. And so we brought in the lawyer, and she had to come to the house because he was too weak to
yep.
leave. And we were able to get at least the house in taken care of, as well as who gets power of attorney. Someone have to make decisions when they can't do that anymore. So it was just a lot of little things that we waited till the last minute. Thank you. He did not pass. He's still here with us. Thank you very much. Actually turned 91 and got it going into his 92nd birthday. But at least with that taken care of, you could rest. And that
Yes,
you could,
it's a huge relief, and the peace of mind that is bestowed upon the family because you took the effort, you made the effort, and you had the forethought. Let me just put all my pieces together. I mean, nobody wants IKEA after somebody dies, with all the pieces and no directions, or
you
the
know,
directions, or
I like when you said, in a previous conversation that we had, is when someone passes or something tragic happens, at that moment, you just need time to heal and time to mourn. You don't want to be running around worrying about all this other stuff. And
yes,
when you spend all your time doing this stuff, getting all the legalities and documents, you don't have time to just mourn and heal and just be in the space. So, so this is a great, what you're offering here is so valuable and vital that we should all have taken care of now. And it doesn't even matter age. It goes in any age. Like,
this is
you
true.
never know.
Especially after COVID. I mean, that dreaded disease, and it's still out there, but we know that hit people of any age. And, you know,
I mean, accidents are accidents. They happen every day, all day. We don't know. God gave us this gorgeous, beautiful life, and we don't know when it's time for us to cross over. And but yeah, Mary Jane, thank you so much for sharing with us today. That
thank
was
you
so
for having me.
inspiring, and I'm so glad that you were one of our Tell Me a Story um, guests. And I will actually put stuff later on for our viewers to contact you. They want your book, or they want the workbook, or they even want to talk to you a little further on what you are offering with your Last Wishes services.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Thank you very much. And Again, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Um, I am Karina Felix. I am the CEO and founder of Aphelion Network and the publisher of Aphelion Magazine. And looking forward to seeing you next week on our next episode of Tell Me the Story.